So welcome to another Facehammer Advent show, and today Russ is going to take us through his top 5 Malign Portent spells, which are available for every single army. So let's hear it, Russ.
Okay, so I thought I'd go through Malign Sorcery set, and I've got the setup on the screen if you're not familiar. It comes with a bunch of endless spells that you can slot in your army, and there is Forbidden Power as well, but I kind of left those out because I don't think they're worth talking about from the top 5. You could
It's only just the bridge, right?
You could argue the bridge, but I still don't think it's that good. I think it's only if you wrote an entire army around it, maybe, but I still don't think it's that good. So I'll start off with number 5, and I've gone for the Aether Void Pendulum.
Cool.
Quite a specific one for some armies, I think.
Yeah, and to be honest, the reason I've picked this one out is because it allows you to do mortal wounds. But the thing about endless spells is normally your opponent, if you take the turn, they can move them. So they can actually then go, okay, well, I'll use it against you. With clever placement, you're never going to get pendulumed by your own spell.
Yeah, that's because it goes in one. It goes in one orientation.
Yeah, it moves in a straight line, and then if you want to hit something twice, because it basically scything blades. So after this model's moved, each unit there's any models passed across, and each other unit is within 1 takes D6 mortal wounds. So what you can do is you can move it just within 1 of the target, but so if it's still within 1, and if it moves any further forward, it's going to go over it. So what you do is you basically move it, tag the model you want to hit, they take D6. If you take the turn and they move it, they've got to move it. So even if they keep it still count this move, and it hits a unit again because it's within 1. But if they move it over their unit, it still hits them. Nice. So you can get a double bubble on it. It's quite hard to explain it without sitting on the table, but just being able to do D6 mortal wounds on a 6 to cast, and it's got an 8-inch. You basically set it up within 6, and it moves 8, so it's fairly short range. But any combat army caster, if you've got like a big guy, you've got like the Gash Archeon, or any wizard that can be frontline, even Eidolon for Deepkin or something like that. It just doing D6 mortal wounds. Sometimes you just some units don't like mortal wounds, and if you can't get access to them in your army easy, this is a great slot in to basically give you some mortal wound output. And it can it can spike, and you can roll ones. It's a little bit temperamental.
I remember Dan Bradshaw's six mortal wound in my Null Sidian Icon banner, and killing it with me not rolling the 4 up. I was just like, come on.
So how many points is that one, Russ?
I think it used to be 40, and I believe it went up
30?
to.
Or is it?
I think it went up to 60. I can double check it because I've got a War Scroll Builder tab.
Is this the one with a sneaky use where you can use it to damage your own stuff?
Yes. So this is the next point I was going to come on. So Aether Void Pendulum is now 50, so it went up 10 points. So there is another use for it.
I love this.
It's a little bit niche, but if, for example, you're playing Ossiarch Bone Reapers, what you can do is, if you've got several Mortek Crawlers and you want to use their Cursed Steel shot, I believe it's the Cursed Steel one, where you roll 2d6, take a modifier, and if you roll over their wounds, they're dead, basically. So what you can, if they've taken 3 wounds, they go from a -3 on that double d6 roll to I think it's a -1 or a flat roll. So what you can do is put the pendulum through all 3 of your Mortek Crawlers, and then snipe off. Can't do it to Marathi anymore, unfortunately, because she's got a new War Scroll. But snipe off some of those annoying pesky healers or characters with your Mortek Crawlers. So it's a bit niche, but you can do it. So it's also there are other endless spells that do less damage to you, but you kind of want to do a big portion of damage to your crawlers to do it, and then you can opt to not take your death save, and then you can also heal them back with your abilities later on in the turn. So it's kind of, you might have to do it in the next turn, but it's regardless that the crawlers are quite hard to get to anyway. But I think it's a very niche use, but it's there if you wanted to do it. So that's my 5th. Just think it's good for that. Fourth might be a bit controversial, and that's my Prismatic Palisade.
Oh, I like the Palisade.
Yeah, and people are probably thinking, what, really? And it doesn't do anything flashy to your opponent in terms of damage, but what it's really good at is disruption. So it's on a 5, you set it wholly within 18, and then basically at the start of each turn, roll a dice for each unit within 6. On a 5 up, take 1 for their hit rolls. And also it's got a Dazzling Brilliance, so another model cannot see another model if an imaginary straight line is drawn from the centre of base, centre of the other model's base, goes over this model. So basically, it blocks line of sight, which is what we mean by that. You can't see it's too bright and brilliant. So actually, you got 2 uses. One is to drop it in front of your opponent. They can't move over it. It's a long line, and that means they actually have to go round it. And also, it could make them -1 to hit. Yep. So it's a debuff. It's not very reliable, but it still has a use. It's only like 30 points, I believe. And it allows you to debuff. I don't actually think they've got a picture of it on the website, which is annoying. But it's this wall here you can see on there. It's this one here. So it's quite big. It's about 6 inches long, I think.
Yeah, 5 at least.
It's the second purchase in every Lumineth list that I take when I've got Teclis. It's like Teclis comes with every one of my lists. Teclis comes with the Palisade and the Spellpore. That's like literally, like every list.
And that's the other use for it is I want to go on that objective with a 5-wound hero gets a diamond that shoots. I don't want them to be able to get into combat with it. You can put the wall in front of the objective, put the hero behind it. They can't go within 3 of the unit. They can't charge over it. They have to go round it. They can't get as many models in combat. If they shoot, they can't shoot through it. So they can unbind it, obviously, but then they've lost a spell as well. So you kind of you're kind of disrupting your opponent's phase, either taking a cast away, or they've already hit with -2 to hit, or it's you put it outside of their cast range of their unbind, but within, so you can be somewhere useful for your hero to be protected. So it's got different uses. So I think it's just a very undersung endless spell you don't see very often, but I think it's very useful if used right.
The liberator of endless spells.
Yeah. So that's my number 4. Number 3 is Chromatic Cogs, which the top 3's hard. I could probably put these in any order.
Yeah,
because Cogs was the hotness for a long time, wasn't it? And then I think I know the top 3 now exactly what I think I know what 2 and 1's going to be.
It's not rocket science, but maybe if you're new to AOS, you've not looked at these. But Chromatic Cogs. So it's on a 7, which is one of the reasons it's actually lower down in my list because it's quite hard to cast.
It's a bonus to that though, right? Because it's hard to get rid of.
Yeah. But I think what's good about it, it's got 2 things. You set it up, and then a wizard within 9 can manipulate it to either cast an extra spell and reroll saves, which I think is the better use.
Underrated.
Because certain wizards, rerollable armor saves on big guys that are wizards, or it's just people that ignore rend. Like if you've got a vampire lord and zombie dragon who's got not anymore, but obviously they sort of ignore rend. I think you could do it on a
Neferata's cast on.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. If you anything that ignores rend or reduces rend, I think it's also a wizard. A rerollable saves is pretty amazing because you're basically like, well, I'm rerolling a 4-up. Ignoring rend is much better than a 4-up ignoring rend.
Even just a Stormcast hero, I've got a 3-up save and it's rerolling, and you've got rend 1. A 4-up rerolling is a badass save for a caster. Yeah, that's basically like 20 wounds worth of damage you have to take.
Very good, even on like a Flesh Eater Court character on like a Terrorgeist, because you can
good point.
You can basically go, right, I'll cast this, slow down time, reroll saves, then I've got an extra spell, and then I'll cast Unholy Vitality on myself, gives me a 5-up. So it's a double bubble for that. As I really liked it in my Flesh Eater army, and I didn't use it for the speed. But if you need the speed, you can use it, and which is to add 2 to move and 2 to charge. So you can get that turn when you go in. The only problem with that is it affects all units on the battlefield, so even your opponent.
That's a painful feeling when you have to cast it and you feel like you need it, but then you also really don't want your opponent to have it. But having two modes is brilliant, and they're so different, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. So 70 points as well, I think now. So fairly expensive. Are they 70 or 80?
It was 60 and it's gone to 80, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So number 2 is the Umbral spell portal. So this is so much use in so many different armies. So effectively, you cast it on a 5, and you set up these 2 mirrors, and then it allows you to cast a spell through the portal. But it only if you successfully cast. So when I was playing my Invader Slanesh army, I would have 3 disruptive spells that I could put through, which I think one was Mass Hysteria, which means or Hysterical Frenzy against an enemy horde, which would do lots of damage. The other 2 would stop you spending command points. I think one was Stupefy and one was the Shaless spell on a War Scroll. So those 3. So I could basically put this in 1 inch of all 3 of the casters, and then I would then just work through those 3 spells, and one of them's going to go off. So my
reverse
opponent,
priority order. You just I want
has
this
to decide
Yeah.
what to unbind, and then if they've run out of unbinds and you really want Stupefy, but you've just cast Hysterical Frenzy, you don't have to put it through the portal. You just say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it through the portal." So, but this has got so much use. So Nagash, like Poke of Death, things like the beam from the Tricefold, Teclis's Spell of Doom, blow up, loads of spells that are short range, really impactful. This gets around the range, and just really good. And you could also slingshot endless spells through it. So not seen very often, but can be quite useful as well. So
yeah, for sure. I like it with debuffs. I think like you just mentioned it, but being a lot of the powerful debuffs, they're kept in line by their shorter range because it's from like a weaker hero or something you don't want close to action or whatever. You just negate that.
Yeah, and you need to be aware of the weird interaction it has, although you cast from it. Like if you've got something like the Thricefold, the Nurgle Beam off the Great and Clean one, basically in Thricefold it does more damage, but you trace the line back to the caster. So although you pick the target from the mirror, the line comes back to the caster, so you could do diagonal lines, which is how you can scythe through multiple units easier using the portals and do it at long range. So it's just worth in mind to just be careful on some of the wording on your spells of how they'll work.
I can pre-FAQ as well. It's as Russ said, there was an instance at a tournament where the Demon Rift went back through the portal because someone didn't see it coming, put it back through the portal, and then it hit his entire army of Tzeentch stuff, which is wizards. So it's there is like you have to be mindful of people going, "Oh, I'm going to put the pendulum back through it because it's going to clip it," and then it goes straight through all your heroes on the other side of the table, and stuff like that. It's there is a lot of play around.
But the reason it's up there is because, and this is 70 points, I know, but it's so many big guys or spells become game impactful by having this. And it's cast at a 5. And generally, once it's up, you generally use it, and then next turn you're not bothered if it goes away. So you kind of want it to be easy to unbind, get rid of it, because you might want to get rid of it and reuse it. So
yeah,
that's true. So.
Number 1. Geminids of August.
Tom Mausley's like smiling to himself.
Mandatory 60-point inclusion in any army, according to Thomas.
It does have a caveat, so it depends on your army. So I would say that I used to use this. I would use it in some, not in others. So basically, this is you get 2 Geminids. When they're set up, they can move around, and they both do 3 mortals. And also 1 more -1 attack, 1 more -1 to hit.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 debuffs which are very powerful. So some stuff would absolutely hate -1 to hit. Some stuff would really hate -1 to attack. But if you've got a unit with 2 attacks and you take 1 away, they've suddenly halved their combat output.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot of stuff. Like I used it on my spirit hosts to stop the non-mortal wound hits happening. because I was going against a Star Drake and I didn't want to have mortal wounds bounce back in my face.
Yeah, super tricksy.
So, and also I didn't want him healing off the armor saves. So I basically made my own Spirit Host only hit on a 6. So they only did mortal wounds and they didn't do normal hits. So he didn't get to roll any armor saves. So bit niche, but I used it for that. I actually hit my own models with his and went, well, now makes mine better and does damage and makes you worse. So
Yeah.
it had like a triple threat. What I would say about Geminids, you have to be very mindful that this is a spell that if your opponent wants to use it against you, is also very powerful against you. So
just as devastating, right?
You need to be careful if you're playing an army that it would particularly be impacted by -1 hit or -1 attack. Then you need to be very careful when you cast it and where you put it. If you're not bothered, like I wouldn't be bothered if someone put it through would give my Spirit Host -1 hit, -1 attack, maybe, but they've got 5-6 attacks each anyway. Doesn't really impact me. So the point is that you just got to be mindful you don't put yourself in a position where you win the turn roll and you're umming and ahhing about whether you should take it or not because of Geminids. And they are that impactful that they can be devastating against yourself. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to pick and choose. It's not always a good chance to put them down the first turn.
It's I can remember playing at ETC for the England team when we played against Poland, and Olgroyd put -1 attack on the Hearthguard Berserker unit, and like it felt really difficult then to churn through his his Reapers, even though I was going twice. It just meant like it almost like mitigated the Hermdar command ability, and then I got the opportunity and I put -1 attack on him, and then it just completely really limited where his stuff was. And then I'm like, right, so now I get to spend the extra command point and go twice and just wipe the entire unit. So yeah, it is mindful. You have to, like Russ said, it's something you have to really factor in. I've never taken Geminids for that reason. It always felt like the reward was good, but the risk was also something that I didn't ever want to sort of like factor.
It's like I've used it in Legions in the Gash, but I wouldn't touch it in Nighthaunt. In Nighthaunt, it would devastate you too much. You don't have the mortal wounds, the healing's a lot more limited. In Legions in the Gash, you can heal the damage easy, and certain units don't care about those debuffs. So it's one or the other. I think it's good.
That's it, Russ.
That's it.
Your
been
time
called.
is over.
All right, if you want to wrap it up, I'll be back in a bit.
I'll wrap it up. Okay, so one thing that's worth considering about it is it has absolutely epic reach. I think it is, I believe it's 16 inches plus 8 inches. So you have a 24-inch reach on 2d3 damage. Now, you can't debuff the same unit twice with -1 to hit and -1 attack, but you can absolutely put your balls through the same thing and then do 2d3 damage to them and pick whichever debuff you're going for. So it's a poke as well as being able to do that. If you're playing Destruction, just pretty much probably don't take it unless you've got a very buff Beastclaw army, because if you are Iron Jaws or something, you would hate to have that put back through yourself.
I can understand why it's top of the list. It's my favourite and least favourite Endless Spell. I hate it when it gets used against me. I like using it against my opponent. So it's one of those.
Yeah, I'll just now I'm back from my interruption. Sorry about that, guys. That's is honourable mention to the Bellwind Vortex.
Yeah.
So I think this is quite good because it gives you extra range, +1 save, and an extra spell. So it's a lot easier to cast than the Chromatic Cogs, and it's this show of interruptions today.
It does. Those two can make any wizard a much better wizard, kind of interestingly. If you can have a 3-cast or 2-cast wizard on foot that suddenly gets +1 to save, +1 to cast him, increase range, and another spell. So I've used that in the past with Bone Splitters with my little guy on foot. It made him a utility beast, kind of mini Lord of Change. It's obviously a lot of points, but it's pretty flexible.
Yeah, so I thought that'd do. So let us know what you think in the comments below, if you agree, if there's any spells that I didn't talk about army specific ones because they depend on your army, but if there's any particular you think are really good, put in the comment. If you disagree with the order, let me know. If you think I should be talking about shackles or
Well,
gnashing
the
jaws
swords,
or very
Quicksilver
swords or something like that.
love an Impaired Quicksilver sword. So
yeah, but that's it. Top 5 endless spells. If you've got any army lists you think would benefit, I'd suggest giving them some play, slotting them in, and seeing how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Subscribe to see more of our future content, and then if you do give us a suggestion, we might be talking about yours in the next video or something like that.
All right, we'll
cheers, guys.
Talk tomorrow.